One more time, the Excuse Me Brother podcast show. I'm your host, Brother Jay, through the screen.
Sorry, bro. My name is Brother Tay. I got distracted by something. Apologies.
Anyway, what we get into is it's a big deal. We got to talk about it. What we get
Of
into
course you
tonight?
do. Today we're going to discuss. I get to I get to introduce it. Oh, that's nice. Today
Yes.
we're gonna give some overall history, and we're gonna talk about the court decision on Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade? Is that not
It
Roe
sounds like
versus
you said
Wade?
Roe. It sounded like you said Roe v. Wave.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I thought I said Roe v. Wade too, and that's why I said it slower the second time. It's like Roe v. Wave, which is I also as a person though I don't understand why they just don't say versus for most court cases, but that's just a preference on my part, I guess.
I think technically it is Roe versus Wade. I think just because like in
No,
I know, but I'm saying like
to
in
tell you the
court.
truth,
I know the text actually says Roe v. Wade, but that's just for court purposes. It is
yeah,
technically Roe versus Wade.
yeah, every court case is Roe versus Wade, which my brain I knows that, but since every time we talk about any court cases, everyone goes like, "Is this v this v this," instead of like this versus this. Because like they just don't put the S, then that's how we recognize it. Because like fighting games and stuff,
I think that's
or
why they
like
do it to differentiate between, like sport and whatchamacallit in legal proceedings. I literally think that's the reason. We could look it up real fast, but it's not that big of a deal.
it's not. It's just a preference that just bothers my brain, honestly.
Understandable.
But yeah, we're gonna Jay's gonna give us some history. We're gonna talk about it, and then we're gonna talk about some of what is the outcome now that what that decision has caused. And I got some stuff. I actually did some research today.
Oh, you did? You want to start? You want to bring up your receipts, or you want me to go first?
This is for like the result, like the takeaways now that this decision's been made.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
Yeah,
We're gonna get into Roe
I
versus
know.
Wade.
I don't do it.
Huh?
No, I don't do it very often, so I know you're surprised.
I'm not. Pleasantly surprised, but sure. Um,
Surprise is a surprise, baby. Doesn't
yeah.
matter if it's pleasant or bad. It's still a surprise. We should probably
So
get rid of the baby thing. I kind of blacked out there. I'm sorry. Continue. I'm not.
so
Go.
are you gonna let me finish?
I am letting you finish. It's just
Oh,
me chuckling. You don't gotta listen to me chuckle.
all right. So yeah, we're gonna discuss the actual court case of Roe versus Wade. As we all know, Roe versus Wade is one of the landmark Supreme Court cases in the history of the United States, which determines whether a woman in the United States has the constitutional right to an abortion. It's a very hot button issue right now, and with the recent Supreme Court decision overturning it, I think it's important that we actually go way back to the beginning to see where the case came from. Right?
Yeah.
The case was it was a 1973 lawsuit, right? And ultimately, the Supreme Court upheld a I'm sorry, it actually determined that women had a constitutional right to abortions, right? There was a Texas law way back when that stated that women don't have the right to an abortion unless um the pregnancy basically was a threat to the mother's life and health. A young woman who went by the pseudonym Jane Roe, Jane Roe, sued her doctor because she believed, she was on her third pregnancy and she basically wanted to get an abortion performed in the state of Texas, but she could not. She made allegations and her lawyers brought forth her case. Now, interestingly enough, there were other doctors in the state of Texas who joined the lawsuit because they said that the laws of the state's abortion laws were actually too vague for the doctors to follow. You ever heard? Did you know about that?
I was not aware, but I am aware that in that time period, that some of the laws on like metal on abortion and some medical things were a little too vague for people to follow. So
Right,
like some of them wanted to do it, but could lead to them losing their license. So
right.
this was more like I to guarantee, like I need this to be solved, so I can guarantee that I'm not putting my job and my license at stake in any sort of way.
In actuality, the doctor who joined the lawsuit, he had actually been arrested for violating that statute before.
So he had money at stake at this point.
Exactly, because like you said, his medical license was at stake. His his reputation, really, because what happened was if a state outlawed abortion or banned abortion, women would just go to other states to get them performed, and they were
See,
often very dangerous procedures, and you know often resulted
um,
in. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
sorry, I don't. Excuse me, brother. Don't mean to cut you off.
Mm.
But as a note from a friend of the podcast, a friend I like to call one of the most lovely people that I know in the world. Her name is Natalie. Uh, she has recommended that there's a documentary on HBO that does talk about like the dangerous procedures that some of the doctors and some of the women had to do. It's on HBO. It's called The Janes, and it talks about the Janes,
Is
like
it on HBO
like
Max?
the okay.
Is it on HBO Max?
I think so. I haven't been on HBO Max since one of my dogs passed away. To tell you the truth,
Right.
and I binge watched Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Uh huh.
Yeah, so I haven't been on. I can go on HBO Max like later on to look it up for you, and I will personally message
I mean,
you.
I have HBO Max. I can just go look myself. But I appreciate your effort.
Okay, no problem. I just want you to know I'm always there to put in the bare minimum for work. Technically,
Okay. So, um, so the
it's like Target all over again.
yeah, pretty much. Ultimately, the court had decided that the United States Constitution provided a fundamental right to privacy that protects a person's right to choose whether or not to have an abortion, but that the abortion is not absolute and that it must be balanced against the government's interest in protecting health and prenatal life. We're actually going to get into that a little later because uh people think that it's purely about control, and just by that statement alone that I just made, it definitely sounds like that. You know what I mean? Um, but the courts had pretty much just was trying to determine whether or not abortion is murder, or if it's a legal, like if it's a medical procedure that can be performed if it's performed like within certain guidelines, because they also instituted the trimester rule, so to speak. Like abortion can only be performed within a certain time frame within a woman's pregnancy. You have anything on that?
I got lost on the prenatal part. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Okay,
I know
so
you said I know we're gonna talk more about it, which I look forward to it. But I am aware that some states are like making it like you can only get abortion. Like it's like what I think the one I heard is like you can only have an abortion if it's like the first 12 or 15 weeks since being pregnant or something like that. I don't know trimesters by dates. I only some of them, I know some said 12 or 15. I think one state said
6 weeks or 6 months.
6 weeks,
Mm,
which you may not be as a person. That's it's kind of hard because you may not know that you're pregnant within those first 6 weeks at all. You don't. Some people actually don't show any signs until like maybe 3 to 4 months, and that's already 12. We're already talking 12 to 16 weeks at that point.
okay. I think I've definitely heard that one. Um, the argument by the court, and well, not by the court, the argument by Jane Roe's lawyers um stated
In the
that she,
past,
huh?
in the past.
Right. I'm
Oh,
just talking
actually,
about the case. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just looked at one of the things I have research on is actually it's Kentucky, and you can't have an abort. In Kentucky bans abortion if you after 6 weeks, and actually, and in Louisiana too.
Louisiana also.
Yeah, it's Louisiana and Kentucky. There might be more, but I can see that Louisiana and Kentucky have a law that if you're not allowed to have an abortion after 6 weeks, except for life threatening pregnancy in Louisiana. If you do in Louisiana, you can face up to 10 years in prison with a 100,000 fine.
Oof. That's more than bail money.
Uh,
Yeesh.
that's for the person who gets the abortion and the people that help them get the abortion. And then I think the state says if in Kentucky, the people who help get the abortion, you get charged with a class D felony, and you can face up to 5 years in prison. At a certain point, I'm taking Kentucky over. I'm taking Kentucky over Louisiana. Okay, 10 years in prison is wild.
It is. It is. Um so let's dissect the legal arguments just a little bit so that way we can basically understand the two sides of the issue. Let's start with Rose's side, right? Because remember, it wasn't
Yeah.
just her that was represented in this case. It was actually a few others, and then that doctor that I mentioned. It says that the Texas law invaded an individual's right to quote liberty under the 14th Amendment, right? It also says that the Texas law infringed on rights to marital, familial, and sexual privacy guaranteed by the Bill of Rights. And it also said
Uh,
they also claim that the right to an abortion is absolute. A person is entitled to end a pregnancy at any time for any reason in any way they choose. Got it? We're on the same
yes.
page here, right? Now,
Got it.
the court, I mean, not the court, Texas or Wade, pretty much, her doctor stated that it says that the state put forth three main arguments in their case to defend the abortion statute, right? It says states have an interest in safeguarding health, maintaining medical standards, and protecting prenatal life. A fetal is a person protected by the 14th Amendment, and protecting prenatal life from the time of conception is a compelling state interest, right? And then that second one
Is
is,
it?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was being petty. Continue.
Oh, I'm saying the second one is really what the big issue is, in my opinion, is that whether a fetus is a person or not. I think that's where people really dig in on their side of the issue. Is this a fetus? Is a person? Is a fetus a person? Right? And if it is a person, therefore that they are you know they have the same rights and the same liberties as a mother or as any other American, right?
Yes. Okay.
So now let's get in. Now that we understand the arguments, let's see how the court actually decided on Roe versus Wade. So basically, like I said before, the court I mean, they overturned. Well, I don't want to say they overturned, but they basically stated that the her whatchamacallit, that that women do have a constitutional right to an abortion because of the due process clause of the 14th Amendment, right? You ever heard?
Okay.
Now, the 14th Amendment basically states that every citizen is guaranteed the right to. Hold on. Oh, it says that whatchamacallit. Let me just read it real fast. It's really quick.
Yeah. Read the 14. Read the 14 amendment.
The
Read.
14th Amendment says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws, right? Then it
Okay.
says, right, that's the 14th Amendment in a nutshell. It's a lot longer than this, but that's basically it in a nutshell. Basically, the government cannot take away your liberties without due process. Can't take away your life, your liberty, or your property without due process, right? So you have your day in court
Yes.
essentially. Now the due process
Got it.
clause, right? The issue was whether or not this is an issue of privacy, and they said that the constitutional rights of privacy comes from the due process clause, right? It says the due process clause does not explicitly state that Americans have a right to privacy. However, the Supreme Court had just recognized such a right going all the way back to 1891. So we're talking 30 years after the Civil War, right? It said just 1 year before Roe, the Supreme Court held that, quote, in a constitution for a free people, there can no doubt that the meaning of liberty must be broad. In Roe versus Wade, the court decided that this right to privacy extends to control over pregnancy. So basically, they're trying to say whether or not a woman has complete agency over her own pregnancy. And therefore, if she does, then that means she has the right to end it. Make sense?
Okay. It's making sense to me, which
So
makes sense.
ultimately, um, I'm gonna skip down just a little bit. I'm reading from supreme.findlaw.com, and they basically covered the case. They made a really nice summary of the whatchamacallit of the case itself. Um, it says that the justices acknowledge that being forced to continue a pregnancy puts a lot at risk, such as physical health, mental health, financial burdens, and social stigma. The court was skeptical of the state's argument that constitutional protections begin at conception. The Constitution doesn't provide a definition of a person, but it does say that its protections cover those who are born or naturalized in the United States. After examining other cases related to unborn children, the court concluded that the unborn have never been recognized in the law as persons in the whole sense. Bam.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
That's what. So ultimately, they decided that no, like fetuses basically are not people, and therefore they're not entitled to the same rights and liberties as a full-grown adult.
Okay. I mean, I won't argue with that technically.
Many people would, and like I said before, that's where people begin to dig in when whether they are pro-life or pro-choice. People on the pro-choice side believe that fetuses are not people, while people on the pro-life side do. Right?
Pro choice. Yeah. Okay.
Makes
Sorry,
sense, right?
I thought you said something wrong. I
No.
mean, with that's definitely a term that should be more defined if we're gonna go that far into it. Like, it should be defined on what you consider a person. Because you're right. Some people would consider, like, as soon as the heart beats, it's a person. I'm more the idea that as soon as the person comes out, as soon as the person's in the world, they're more of a human. If anything, technically, it's more of a parasite. Sir?
I'm listening. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, there's that I. Some people like to say that once the baby comes out, like once you had the baby, like once some
Once
people
the baby
believe
is
that
born.
once the I'm of the idea that once the baby is born, they can be considered a human then, because like until then, a fetus inside technically it's a parasite because it can't live on its own without a host. It's a parasite. Not to make it sound as bad as I not to take it as bad as I sound in my head, but this is
It,
true.
it sounds bad. It sounds bad either way you put it.
Scientifically, definition it's not a sufficient human if it cannot parasites or cannot live without a host. A fetus cannot live without a mother. Technically, it's a parasite.
Well, actually, the definition.
Classification.
Actually, the definition of a parasite says an organism that lives in or an organism of another species, its host, and benefits by deriving nutrients at the other's expense. Right. So if a
A
human
fetus.
but is a fetus a human, right?
No,
Is it another
it's a parasite.
species?
We just defined this.
But no, is a fetus of another species? So they're saying like if you live like a worm, if a worm takes over the body of or lives in the body of a human, therefore is a parasite.
Yeah.
But if it's a human and inside of another human, is it still a parasite? That's the
Yes.
question. You
No,
believe so?
the answer is yes.
Mm,
Absolutely.
how if it says that if it's another species?
It's a parasite.
But the definition says of another species is what I'm getting at. If it's a human growing inside of another human and living off the nutrients, is it really at the mother's expense, or is it just because I don't know if I like obviously I'm not I've never been pregnant, but do
Like, no, you haven't.
yeah, I've never been pregnant. So like, is it when
You had that was a
when
long pause, sir. You want to talk about it?
I'm tired. Leave me alone. I've been up since 4 a.m. Um,
Same.
yeah, we're going on 20 hours, bro. Um,
Let's fucking go.
let's not. Um,
Oh,
you
you're
really
no
have to.
fun.
It really begs the question. If technically, by this definition, a parasite has to be hosting another species or living off of another species. The question becomes: is a fetus another species, or is this a human being? And if it is a human being,
Well,
does it?
I'm gonna
Does it?
say this.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It has to be. It cannot be classified. It can't be classified as a human, even though it has the same traits and everything. Because for it to be, there's a lot that goes on in my head right now. There's a conversation for later. Where I don't think I don't have the capacity to talk about it at the time.
Okay.
Because, like as you said earlier, we have been up for 12 hours. But on a technical sense, it would be considered. It would not be considered. It would not be considered a human at this time due to another at this time. Because
Understandable.
yeah, at the time it would not be considered a human. Now, can will it develop into a human? Yes, because technically, before we're able to technically once conception happens, a fetus has a tail. Humans don't
Fetus
have
has a what?
tails. A fetus is in the womb has a tail.
Mm-hmm.
Most humans don't have tails, so it has classifications that don't make it a human at this time. But also, it has classifications of a human that can also classify as a human. But if it doesn't, it's a whole lot more science to go into that I don't have the paperwork in front of me or the
I'm
mental
of the
ability to do it.
I'm of the mindset that it was made by humans, so therefore it makes it human. You know what I mean?
Is a robot a human then?
No,
It's made by humans.
but it's an organic and biological process, is what I'm saying. That's more of a synthetic and mechanical one. But if a man,
You trying to say my PlayStation can't be my real child? Is that what you're
it's
saying? I
pretty
made it.
much but you know what's funny? They're actually trying to do. They tried. Remember, there was an elephant at the Bronx Zoo that they tried to classify as human recently. You know what I mean? And if it's a
This I
human,
have.
because there
Hold
was a
on. You got to give me more background on
this
that. I've
this is like a
never heard
month.
of this.
This was like maybe a month ago, but there was a case in the court trying to classify. I think this animal rights group was trying to classify this particular elephant as a human because it displayed a high level of intelligence, right? And
Okay.
the court decided that it's actually not a human because of it, because it doesn't have that. It's basically it's not a human being. They were trying to get the animal to be freed or into a conservation camp. Um, let me just look it up real fast. We're
Sounds like
slightly getting off. We're slightly getting off topic, but um,
sounds like that court was pussy. That's all I'm saying. We
let
could
me
have
see.
classified that. We could classify that elephant as a human. I'm all for it. That sounds hilarious. To make everything so much more complicated. in this
Right.
trial.
So,
In this
okay,
trial.
yes, Happy the elephant is not a person. The court rules by the Associated Press. Nonetheless. So there,
Happy the elephant.
yes.
I gotta
So
talk. I want you to.
honestly,
I'm gonna be truly honest. The reason I was more captivated in learning about this was because I have a friend that works in the Bronx Zoo
she never
that
told you
has to
about it.
do no,
Mm, tragic,
which for reasons I can understand why she didn't tell me. I would
right?
not taking it seriously.
Tragic, because this is, believe it or not, this is actually a very interesting case. But nonetheless, the court ruled that that this elephant is not a human just because it displays a high level of intelligence. So it goes back
Uh
to the question in the case: this does the fetus inside of a pregnant woman's womb be is it considered, should it be considered a human? And if it does, therefore it is, does it is it entitled to the same rights as the mother is? And if that's the case, then then you shouldn't be able to abort that baby, because then you will in a way be considered it would be considered murder at that point, right?
yeah,
And
you would
that's the
be you would
argument.
take place in a murder.
Exactly, that's the argument. I'm gonna go back to the case just a little bit, because this is where, okay, this is how they define human, I mean, where life begins, right? It says the Roe versus Wade decision also includes a discussion on the different views on when life begins. Many in the Jewish faith, for example, believe that life begins at birth, but the prevailing view in the Catholic faith is that life begins at conception. Doctors' views actually vary, but they tend to lean toward the belief that life begins sometime before birth. But the court found that it is not up to the states to decide when life begins. Right?
The court
So
decided it's not up for the state to make that decision.
right. It says,
Okay.
quote, we do not agree that by adopting one theory of life, Texas may override the rights of the pregnant women that are at stake. Then it goes into the breakdown of the trimesters when women actually can get abortions and whatnot. It says, however, as mentioned above, the court did not agree that the Constitution guarantees an absolute right to an abortion. In other words, the privacy right does not prevent states from putting some regulations. Right? The court created a framework to balance the state's interests with privacy rights. Right? Acknowledging that
Mm-hmm.
the rights of pregnant people may conflict with the rights of the state to protect potential human life, the court defined the rights of each party by dividing pregnancy into three 12-week trimesters. Remember, we were trying to break it down earlier? They actually broke it down here, right? During a pregnant person's first trimester, the court held a state cannot regulate abortion by requiring that the procedure be performed by a licensed doctor in medically safe conditions. During the second, the court held that a state may regulate if the regulations are reasonably related to the health of the pregnant person. During the third, the state's interest in protecting the human life outweighs the right to privacy. So the later you are in your pregnancy, the more whatchamacallit, the more strict the law became and
Okay.
your chances of actually getting it.
Then your chances of actually getting an abortion were lessened.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, check this out. This is something very interesting that this article brings out. It
Check
says, talk
this
about
out.
the significance of Roe versus Wade. It says many think of Roe versus Wade as a case that, quote, legalized abortion. However, that isn't exactly true. What it did was change the way states can regulate abortions and characterize abortion as something that was covered under constitutional rights of privacy. So many people actually got it confused, man. We're confused, brother. This is why we need to read. This is why we actually need to read the facts of the cases that we bring forth.
I'm always confused. That's not new.
Through that, you are always confused.
Yep.
It says it may come as a surprise that Roe did not have much of an impact on the number of abortions performed each year in the United States. According to the Guttmacher, I've never heard of this place. According to the Guttmacher Institute, in the years before Roe was decided, there were over 1 million illegal abortions performed in the United States annually. After Roe, that number remains around 1 million performed legally. Plus, the rate of deaths occurring as a result of abortions dropped dramatically in the years following Roe. Do you remember what I said
Mm-hmm.
earlier?
That
Shots
that
fired.
the which one did you say? You said a lot of things earlier, but he's talking about that just because what the court said it did not make abortion legal.
No,
Is
no,
that
no.
what you mean?
Remember I said earlier that before Roe versus Wade, that women would just go to other states if their state outlawed it, they would just go to other states and get abortions performed, and a lot of times they were very dangerous and very uh lethal,
Yes, I
actually.
remember. I remember. Yes,
So it
I remember.
I, so is basically saying here that after Roe v. Wade, the results of abortions, I mean the death rates,
the The death
they
rate of
dropped.
abortion dropped
Right.
significantly. Not which makes sense because in a way it definitely allowed now the practice. It allowed the practice to be better.
Right. And a lot of
Like
no. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
doctors were no longer afraid of doing it. Like they didn't have to do it in a back alley. They can now set
With a
appointments and
hanger.
things.
With a wire hanger. Oh God. I saw that in a
Yeah.
movie once. Oh my God. Ugh. It was bad. Like this woman, I forgot the name of the movie. It was like Ford. Wait, this might be the movie that your friend told me about or that
But
you recommended. What's it called? The
the
Janes?
yeah, documentary.
It's a documentary.
It is a documentary.
Is it new?
I don't think so. I can, I can look it up. It's
Oh,
not like it's not something I first. This is the first time
it is new.
when she told me about it.
It's
It is.
new.
It's a 2020. It's a
Yeah.
2020.
2022. It came out in January.
Yes, it did.
But no, there was another movie that I saw, and my one of my law professors actually showed it to me. It was to us, and she was like, it was about it was like four different
Hold on,
women.
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Oh, actually, I think I saw this too. Actually,
So the way I mean the roads, the Rose, the Janes. What's the name of this movie?
no, the movie you're talking about. Because I also saw a movie where there actually was an abortion scene with a wire hanger.
Yeah, and she bled out. I
Yeah,
think like 3 days later, the woman actually bled out. She went and got an abortion performed. She didn't.
I
She had
actually,
no anesthesia. Right? The
yeah.
doctor did it on like a kitchen table or something with some wire hangers and some ply tools, some tools or whatever have you. Just
Oh,
went
my
up in
stomach.
her uterus, and yo, she was screaming in pain and all this other nonsense. And then
Well,
like three
yeah.
days later, you see a scene where she's on the phone trying to get some medical attention, and she's just bleeding out from her uterus. It was wild. I was like, wow.
I do remember a scene like this in a certain movie. But
If I
also,
could,
when we start talking about it, it's actually making my stomach hurt.
I understand. It's a hot button issue. It's a very
God.
difficult thing to talk about. I get it.
Oh, it's not. It's not even talking about it. As we talk about it, my mind. I unfortunately I have a thing that when we say things, my mind just automatically makes a picture. Like it runs the movie into my head, like a visual. I visualize it in layman terms. Well, not layman terms. So as you're describing my mind is giving me the mental picture, and it's making me queasy.
I really want to know what the name of that movie was. Now I'll look it up later.
We can,
No,
we can find
I'll
it out
just look it up on
tomorrow.
my own time. Yeah, look it up on my own time.
We can find out tomorrow
Okay. Um.
after sleeps and after naps.
The court just ultimately decided in a 7-2 decision that 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 women do have a constitutional right to an abortion. Um, and of course, since then, the issue has really turned into one of America's leading, or in really the world's
To
one
tell
of the
you the
world's leading.
truth,
What's up?
so technically it really shouldn't be, because like as an argument, as the people who mostly argue against it, like the like oh for religious reasons, like life starts at conception. technically we shouldn't be using religious in any way to make laws to begin with.
You, you think so?
No, oh no, fully. If we believe the founding fathers, they literally said separate state from church when you're making laws to
Well,
make a society work. You cannot have religion affect your law making. That's what they said. That's why literally in their bill in their things they all wrote always keep law separated from churches.
but you know the interesting thing about that is that's actually not a constitutional thing.
Oh, it's not a constitutional thing. I'm just saying they always said. I never said it was in the Constitution. It just always says separate law from church. Like keep your religions away from laws.
Yeah,
It's just something they all believed in fully.
I know. I agree with you. I'm just saying that the separation of church and state was actually not a it's not written anywhere in the Constitution. It's
No, which
actually
is a
just something
problem.
that is actually came from a letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote. And really, a lot of people actually um, if I'm not mistaken, right? People actually believe that it means that the government, I mean, that the church should never interfere with the government. When if I'm not mistaken, I read somewhere that it's really supposed to be the other way around. That the reason that that they put a separation between the church and the state, the
Well,
government
most
can't interfere with the affairs of the church.
most churches aren't. Once you're a church, you're not supposed. You have certain assumptions. Like you're not supposed to be charged for having. You're not supposed to pay taxes if you for a church and things like that. There are a lot of things that the state. It's supposed the law. Technically, it's supposed to be a separation. Like the government cannot affect the law. Cannot affect the church, and the church can affect the government. Regard like the law is supposed to be both ways.
It's
They're
supposed to
like
be what it really does is protect religion from government. That's really like Congress cannot establish an official religion. That's really
yeah,
what it's
because
supposed to do. You're supposed to be able
that's what
to,
the
you
that's what the
know,
Constitution is for, though.
right. But what I'm saying is that the whole idea of separation of church and state really wasn't about the church interfering with trying to make trying to pass laws and everything. The separation of church and state was so that the government will not infringe upon the free practice of religion. Get it?
Yep. Yeah, no,
Um
I got it. I mean,
and then
technically, yes, but like I said, it's a double way wall. One
it's
one
yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
one's the original thing because like we have a freedom to religion, to practice the religion we want to in this country. But in a sense, since that's a wall, it should also be the same thing. Like religion should not affect how society should make its laws. So not everyone goes crazy and breaks the laws every day. There
You're
are some
right.
crazy laws.
In a
There's some
sense,
crazy things in the Bible and stuff, and in the
in,
Torah.
well, the
In the
Torah is
Quran.
part of the Bible. In
I
a
was thinking of
sense,
other books. I'm sorry.
huh?
Trying to think of the other books. Can't think of them right now.
Quran.
Quran. There's another one. Something that starts with an L. It doesn't matter.
Um, but yeah, the Torah is really just the first 5 books of the Bible. That's all it is.
I
Um,
know.
there. So when it comes to the issue of religion in with respect to, abortion rights, of course, most pro-life people believe are are religious folks. Well,
Yes.
for the most part, I would say. Would you agree? And
Most of them. Yeah.
would you say would all right? Okay, a huge, if not most of
No.
them, then a large representative, and usually the loudest.
The loudest and the most and the loudest ones are normally very religious people.
Right.
The other part might be very ignorant people that are just following things. But they
Who?
also it's just the way it is.
Yeah, pretty much. That's America in a nutshell, in my opinion. Um,
You follow
usually the
most many
most
people just
ignorant
follow the
people are the
loudest.
loudest. Yeah.
The most ignorant people are the loudest, and then the people who are ignorant that are not loud kind of just follow the loudness to be like they must be right since they're loud about it.
hmm Um. So over the course of the last 50 years, we've seen people, protest for, protecting the right to an abortion, protecting the life of potential humans. You know what I mean? Ultimately, what happened? We're just gonna fast forward a little bit. On what was it, last Friday, a week ago today? Well, technically, a week ago on Friday, on the 24th, what happened? The Supreme Court overturned and reversed the decision of in Roe versus Wade, declaring that the constitutional right to an abortion no longer exists. And of course, the reaction to this has been very polarizing, very very polarizing. There are people who are glad and were happy in the streets, and then there are many people, probably many more, who were outraged.
Based on, I'm not gonna lie, based on what we just learned in this thing, I feel like the people who are the happiest and the people who are the happiest kind of just figure like, oh, okay, abortion's banned like nationwide, which that is not true. I mean,
Exactly.
abortions are always going to happen.
Right. It's
Technically,
just
we just banned the safe way to do it for most women.
that's a very interesting way to put it.
That's
Because
what it, it's.
what I was gonna say was they didn't ban it. They just ripped the blanket off the covers, or they ripped the covers off of you. You know what I mean?
No, they didn't. We already knew, like, because there's still people out that technically still get like dangerous and illegal abortions, like today. It's just that it's better in our world. It's better just to go like now. It's still better for people in the states like Kentucky and Louisiana, the one that we mentioned, that have like you can't you cannot get an abortion after 6 weeks. But again, in another way, it's still a possibility. Like they're still gonna go through it. They're still gonna try to go to another state to still do it.
Yeah. Which is what was
Like,
happening before Roe v. Wade was a thing.
yeah, but they're just now gonna be more. They're probably just gonna be just now. There's so many more states that are so more about. How can I say this? There's so many more states that want to make abortion as safe as possible. Like some of the northeastern states even if like you leave like Kentucky to come to New York to get an abortion, now it's like I know New York is trying to make a law that's like the Kentucky cannot like prosecute you because you came here to do it, which is another thing that's probably going to lead to another Supreme Court case eventually. But someone's going to get arrested for it, and it's going to go into the courts.
Them overturning this case is going to open so many cans of worms that they probably cause more problems than they'll start. I mean, than they cause.
Absolutely,
I mean,
it absolutely.
solve.
As I said this to a friend that like overturning this is going to one. We're going to get more Supreme Court cases coming to them to get better definition, and we're going to see how this goes about. It could nationally lead, depending on how this goes. It could lead to a case where they're just going to have to make an amendment that abortion other is not protect. They're going to about we're going to have to make an amendment about abortion at a certain point because there are going to be so many cases and so many states are going to have so many different laws.
You know,
And
the
technically,
last time they actually made an amendment to the United States Constitution.
is it not since like this? I can't think of one right now. I can look it up later, but it's been a very long time.
The
But
last,
also, but you can look it up. But as another thing, as my roommate Cassandra told me, she said that now that there are 13 states that have trigger laws now that the court case has been overruled.
well, actually, before we go into that, let's actually see what the ruling was, how they came to this decision, and then we'll get into uh
All right, but you only tell the top only say the top two. That's important.
the top two.
Yeah, because
Okay,
honestly,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So officially, they overturned the ruling on, like we said, last Friday, June 24th. Actually,
Oh
got
no,
that
you said it.
notification while at work. It said I'm reading from NPR, the Associated Press. Said writing for the court
Sorry.
majority,
Cite
Justice
your sources,
Samuel.
brother.
Of course, you know I does my thing. Um, It says writing for the court majority, Justice Samuel Alito said that the 1973 Roe ruling and repeated subsequent high court decisions reaffirming Roe, quote, must be overruled because they were, quote, egregiously wrong. The arguments were, quote, exceptionally weak and, quote, so damaging that they amounted to, quote, an abuse of judicial authority. So this dude was just ripping the whole thing. The decision, most of which was leaked in early May. Remember that earlier? I don't know if you did. You know about that? That the court
Yes.
documents actually got leaked back in May. That they were pretty much going to overturn Roe v.
Yes.
Wade.
I did. Actually, I did.
Yes, I remember that, and I was like, oh, it's a wrap for y'all. It's a wrap for women everywhere.
I
Um,
don't. I did hear about the. I did hear about the leaking. They
yeah,
just never. I heard about the leaking. It just never was. It didn't really just get posted until now. But I did hear the leaking that the Supreme Court was going to overturn it.
yep. It said the decision, most of which was leaked in early May, means that the abortion rights will be rolled back in nearly half the states immediately, like you said, with the trigger laws, with more restrictions likely to follow. For all
Mm-hmm.
practical purposes, abortion will not be available in large swaths of the country. The decision may well
Probably.
mean, too, that the court itself, as well as the abortion question, will become a focal point in the upcoming fall elections and in the fall thereafter. So yeah, because it is voting time, especially up here in New York, I believe.
It's
Uh,
voting time. It's voting time. It's voting time in a lot of states.
yeah,
It's the primaries and it's the elections for a lot of the senators.
it's the primary elections for what?
It's the primaries and also a lot of elections for to either re-elect their senators or replace them. It's my memory. I could be wrong because I know senators. There's an election for senators every 6 years, not every 4 years.
Right, and
It's
I believe
it's every 2 years House representatives for those
right,
who don't know as well.
right.
So,
I
but
believe
yeah,
midterm elections. That's what they call them, midterm elections.
yeah.
Um,
I could, like I said, I could be wrong, but yeah, since the decision, yeah, there's only been 13 states so far that have gotten their trigger laws like announced and fully working at this moment, to my knowledge. And
mhm.
this comes from the New York Times. So I'll tell you the 13 states, and I'll let you know what the if you have, I'll let you know what their laws are technically. And so the 13 states is Arkansas, Idaho, Kentucky, Louisiana, as I mentioned earlier. Those two I mentioned earlier. Mississippi, Missouri, South, North and South Dakota, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, and Wyoming.
Mm. All Midwestern and Southern states.
Well, did
Not
you expect
surprising.
it to be any
No,
different?
no, not at all. Not at all. Listen, we know which part of the country is, about that life. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. So Arkansas is pretty much banning. Arkansas is banning pretty much banning all abortions or
all of
anything.
them,
Yeah,
even the ones
like
that
there's
threaten mothers' lives.
no. Literally, the only thing is all abortion. It's like it pretty much, with the exception of life of the pregnant woman in a medical emergency. If not, anyone that performs an abortion or attempts to perform one, okay, the doctors will receive 10 years in prison.
In years.
And
Sheesh.
Idaho, this Idaho says that providing an abortion will lead to 5 years in prison. Except, literally, it's pretty much anyone if it's not. Well, Idaho's a little different. They're saying you cannot have an abortion unless the woman is in danger of dying or medical emergency, or in the cases of rape and incest.
Rape and incest.
Yeah. So
Mm.
if the woman was raped, Idaho doctors are allowed to perform the abortion. I don't know how far they're going to go into that, but that's what they said. Kentucky, I think we already did. Kentucky already technically had a bill that pretty much banned abortions in Kentucky since 2019. So they're not really different. They've been at this. The only difference is they just got rid of the rules of rape and incest.
Hmm.
Those are no longer exceptions to the law.
What is Mississippi's law?
Mississippi law states that let's say it's the same as Idaho, except with incest. You can only have abortion when to save the life of the mother and in cases of rape. Incest is not an exception.
So they allow incest down there in Mississippi. Not
I mean,
surprising at all.
they also allow incest in Kentucky for just we're going
Not
back to that.
not
And,
surprising.
and technically Arkansas
Okay, so the decision,
and Louisiana.
Louisiana, New Orleans. You heard me. So it says joining the Alito opinion were Justice Clarence Thomas, appointed by the first President Bush, and the three Trump appointees, Justices Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett, whatever. Chief Justice John Roberts, appointed by President George W. Bush, concurred in the judgment only and would have limited the decision to upholding the Mississippi law at issue in the case, which banned abortions after 15 weeks. Wow. Calling the decision a, quote, serious jolt to the legal system, he said that both the majority and dissent displayed a, quote, relentless freedom from doubt on the legal issue that I cannot share. So this was really messing with him, that to the point that he didn't even join in the opinion. Dissenting, right? Yeah, exactly. Dissenting were Justices Stephen Breyer, appointed by President Clinton, and Justices Sonia Sotomayor and Alina Kagan, appointed by President Obama. Yep. They said that
So I know too much about Sotomayor. When she was appointed, when she was appointed, there was too much celebration going on.
Too much what?
There was too much celebration during that time because she came from my high school, so it was all over. It was all over our high school for a good 2 years.
I know she went to Cardinal Spellman.
Mm-hmm. They had to come speak to us.
Wow,
it was a lot.
Interesting. They said that the court decision means that, quote, young women today will come of age with fewer rights than their mothers and grandmothers. Indeed,
they also have fewer rights than the pistol that their father has.
Huh. Excuse me, brother, but we already addressed gun violence.
We need to address it again.
We will. We will.
Because technically, that was also overturned in the Supreme Court decision. That's a future episode. There was another decision about gun violence or gun law in the Supreme Court at the same day as Roe versus Wade.
Yes, I do remember that actually. So somebody's using a cover up. Honestly, this is a distraction, y'all.
Everything's a distraction or something. But that we have to go back to. We have to do another gun law episode again. Because this has opened a lot of worms and a lot of cans in this basket.
Yeah, this is a very, very serious issue. It's not a joke.
Like I said, I told you before in the failed recording. I'm going to mention it. Screw it. Like I said, some people won't be happy till we get back to these drum corps laws.
Which okay, so I'm glad that you said
that. I'm talking about Texas.
Oh, of course. I'm glad that you said that. Because it says Alito's opinion is a tour de force of the various criticisms of Roe that have long existed in academia, right?
No, what's academia? I'm sorry.
Meaning basically in history and legal, whatchamacallits. He said, writing for the majority, he said forthrightly that abortion is a matter to be decided by states and the voters in the states. We hold, quote,
oh God.
Listen, he said, we hold that the Constitution does not confer a right to abortion. As to what standard the court should apply in the event that the state regulation is challenged, Alito said any state regulation of abortion is presumptively valid and, quote, must be sustained if there is a rational basis on which the legislature could have thought it was serving legitimate state interest. There goes that word again. Respect for and preservation of prenatal life at all stages of development. So basically, the government has a
God damn, we can't keep calling it prenatal life.
well, that just means before birth.
I
Um,
know.
I know, I know. It says, in addition, he noted states are entitled to regulate abortion to eliminate, quote, gruesome and barbaric medical procedures, to, quote, preserve the integrity of the medical profession, and to prevent discrimination on the basis of race, sex, or disability, including barring abortion in cases of
Who?
fetal
I'm
abnormality.
sorry. Who said this?
Justice Alito, he wrote the opinion on the
Toledo Thomas.
no, that's Clarence
Oh.
Thomas you're thinking. Alito's first name is damn it, what is his first name?
I'm sorry. I gotta go look at the judges again. It's been a few days since I looked at their faces. Hold on. Hold on.
Samuel Alito.
Hold on. Let me. Hold on.
Interestingly enough, he's not the Chief Justice.
I know he's not. I forgot who. I remember. I don't remember who the Chief Justice was. Viper. Is it not?
John Roberts is the Chief Justice.
Then he said it's fine. Then he also sided with them.
Thomas. I mean, well, yeah, Thomas did, but Johnson, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The only ones who, well, remember the six conservative justices sided to overturn, right? And this is a long play from whatchamacallit, all the way going back all the way from Trump, to be completely honest. Because once what's her name retired,
Two of them. Yeah, one retired and one unfortunately passed away.
right? I think RBG died,
No,
and she
they
died, right?
died, and
And
yeah,
the
she
other one
died.
retired. So that paved the
Mm-hmm.
way for Kavanaugh and the other chick. What's her
Yeah.
name?
Uh. So O'Connor retired. That's the one who led to. If my memory serves me, that led to Brett Kavanaugh. I could be wrong. No,
Yes.
it was. I see what it was. It was. Stephen Bear. I'm called Bear.
Yeah.
Steve Bear. He's the one, he retired in June of 2022. Well, there was someone else who retired that they win that was there was someone else who retired on like the last 2 years of like Obama leaving or last year because that's what actually led to Brett Kavanaugh.
Right. And then RBG dying led to this the white chick, not Kagan, the other one. I think she's the one that led to this girl getting appointed.
Coney.
Yes, her.
Amy Coney.
And
I'm gonna say Barrett because we're from New York and I represent.
nah, RJ Barrett.
Yeah.
So basically, she's like, you see how they set this up. They set up with a majority conservative um Supreme Court
Majority of the
justice panel.
conservative Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So that
they
way they
can.
can
No, they
overturn it.
can. I
And
mean, they've
and it,
been. That was their.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
That was their plan for a while now. That was their
Yeah.
plan for a while.
Oh yeah. Listen, the feds they play chess. It's not checkers with them. It's chess. It's chess, bro. Um, because it's really gonna be um. This is not just the first thing that they're gonna overturn. They're gonna overturn a lot of stuff. They're gonna overturn same sex marriage. They're gonna overturn
Probably.
interracial marriage. They're gonna overturn segregation, and because you already see that they don't want to teach their children race theory or critical race theory.
Yeah,
So
critical race theory is they're trying to outlaw that in many schools in some of these states, which is kind of dumb.
they're
Not even
gonna be like,
kind of. It's
listen,
fully dumb.
we don't want y'all learning about critical race theory. So you know what? We're not even gonna send y'all to school with them no more.
I don't need to worry about that.
Agreed. So let's discuss how are we? How are we? How was this?
We.
What you call it? How is this decision going to open all the cans of worms that we know it's going to open?
Well, one I've said before with this, like he's not wrong in technical sense. There is no if there he's not wrong. There was the Constitution. The Constitution doesn't really mention abortion. It's up to free. It's up for It's always up for interpretation by us. But in a sense, the Constitution doesn't really ever talk about abortions. But like I said, we're gonna get a lot more court cases where either we're gonna get to a point where we're gonna have to write an amendment about abortion in the Constitution. We're gonna over. You're right. The next one, probably the next court case is gonna be on the chopping block is the one that led to same-sex marriage. I wish I remember. I wish I could remember it off the top of my head.
Hold on, I can look it up right now.
But that's gonna lead. That's gonna lead to like things, and technically that would be more of a privacy issue. Maybe again that would also go back to the 14th Amendment technically. So right, a privacy because like it is who you bring into your own home and what you do in your own home. But that's definitely
Obergefell versus Hodges. That's the name of the case, I believe.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be on the chopping block and what's going to be reviewed on it. And I don't know if people are able. I feel like if you're able to appeal certain court cases and stuff, I feel like that's going to lead to appeal decisions. I feel like that's going to lead to a whole lot more mess before they even get close to like interracial marriage, segregation, and stuff like that. Those are going to be the first two main issues that's going to cause a real problem. Like the abortion and same sex, we're going to be dealing with this for another. At least in my brain, we're going to be doing this for the next 2 decades, honestly.
Well, something you just said stuck out of my mind. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was because I don't want to quote you verbatim.
It was I said that if they do go after another court case to overturn it or just review it, it will be the same sex, which is the Hobbs court case, which I fully believe that's more because that really goes back to the 14th Amendment about privacy, like a right to privacy, like because it is your home. American people should not know what you do in your home. Like the government shouldn't know what you do in your own home. They already technically do, but in a sense they shouldn't. But that's really gonna come down to like that's really gonna come down how you really want to interpret the 14th Amendment.
Yeah, because remember when I read to you about what the original intent of the Second Amendment was when we did the gun the school shooting episode.
The original time was it was a small militia and they were in Civil War.
Right.
Everyone didn't technically needed a gun, and everyone was supposed to be able to go to war when needed because every state was supposed to have a small militia.
Right. Exactly.
I knew what the original purpose was for it.
Right. So then, when you examine the 14th Amendment, we really have to understand what it means by "Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor to deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws." So you really have to discuss what you mean by all of that because it's vague and it's obtuse, and unfortunately, I feel like it's presented that way intentionally. You know what I mean?
Probably I feel like a lot of the things written in the amendments are supposed to be vague because they're supposed to change over time. Like we're supposed to be able to interpret it in a way that's supposed to benefit the society as we're making here. That's what's supposed. That's probably what most people do. But again, since there's so little detail about it, people are going to take it to spend it whichever way they want. What is the benefit to society, or is the benefit their pockets? Regardless, someone's gonna interpret it, and it's always gonna be up to review again as we get to as more like some of these Supreme Court justices are going to retire, some are going to pass away, and then we're gonna have to appoint new ones, whoever's going to be, what party's going to be more whichever party's going to have majority at the time, and we're just going to go with it. And probably, like I said, this is going to be an issue for the next, maybe, like I said, this is going to be an issue for the next 2 decades before anything is
I'll
really
say
ever
next
solved in this
3.
situation.
Because think about how
Probably.
long it'll go longer than that. It'll go way beyond our lifespans, honestly. Because think about it like this, right? This case was settled
No.
in 1973, and almost 50
Or
years later, and it's
you got,
still a crazy issue. It's still a hard issue, a very fiercely fought issue. Especially as
it's
these
still
other
one of,
issues come up, they kind of intertwine with each other. Because think of it like this, right? Say you have a lesbian couple, right? That really just
yes.
recently got married, and
No.
they want to conceive children. Obviously, they can't do it on their own. So, what are they gonna do? Whichever of the women decides to, carry the baby. What's gonna happen if she can't get an abortion?
Or like the baby,
The baby
like
get
something's
right.
wrong. Unfortunately, something is wrong with the pregnancy, which can happen, unfortunately. And now she would either need an abortion or she's recommended to get an abortion because it could kill the baby. The baby probably won't make it after the birth. Like there, and it's an issue. Like they're saying she's gonna be fine. Like so, technically, her life's not in any danger. But that baby technically is gonna be dead as soon as it comes out. So now you're in the mind. You're like like your brain is like I want to like it should be aborted to like put it out as misery, and then you got to deal with some other stuff going on right now.
Mhm.
Then you got them, and if it goes down the can of worms that we think it's going to go to when it gets to the same sex couple situation, now they got to be worried about what people think of them now that they might be married and they're lesbians. That could be a
Exactly.
whole nother situation.
It is going to be a whole nother situation. They all bleed into each other because all these, and it's something because I feel this way about the issue of abortion is like, a lot of times, sometimes you hear mostly a lot of women say that if you don't have a uterus, you shouldn't have an opinion on this issue. And I'm like, well, why shouldn't we? It affects everybody. It doesn't just affect women. This
I
affects everybody.
I don't. As a personal note, this might get me in trouble on this one, but I understand. Like, I feel like the people who say that are a little too angry. Like,
Oh, very much so.
personally, yes. Like, yes, I understand that you like. We won't be as men. We won't be able to fully understand or comprehend what the thing are going through. But
Exactly.
I don't think you should ever silence someone's opinion because, like, some people are wrong. Some opinions are bound to be wrong. It is
That's
what
what
it
it,
is.
right.
There's
Opinions are not
there's all
facts.
opinions are subjective and they're not facts.
Exactly.
But once you tell someone they're not allowed to have an opinion on anything, now you start to take away certain. Now you start to take away certain things from them as well.
And it's funny because there was another, I believe, I forgot what the issue was, but I saw a whole bunch of like I forget what the issue was, but I saw a whole bunch of women asking, "Oh, how come the men aren't saying anything? How come the men aren't saying anything? Oh, this is happening to us and y'all aren't saying anything." And every man was just like, "Well, y'all told us to stay out of it, so we stayed out of it. Now y'all want us to say something." So it's like you can't have it both ways. You either want us involved or you want us not
Exactly.
involved.
That's probably something I don't know what you're talking about. I personally don't, but it's a thing. Once, like I said, once everything has a ripple effect, especially on a large base of society. Like when you tell someone their opinion, when you tell someone they can't have an opinion, you really do. You kind of silence them from
Your own
having any
cause.
other conversation.
And you
So
hurt your own
another,
cause, really.
yeah. So another thing, actually, if you want to, if not to keep this, to take it away from this, remember the whole situation with oh goddamn this man, Justice, goddamn it, Jesse, the
Justice
fuck,
Smollett, yeah.
yeah, the actor. The whole time there was a whole thing when his whole thing was happening, and everyone, and because he was part of the LGBT community, a lot of people for the LGBT community was speaking up for him. They're like, yeah, there's this, and they were getting mad that certain people in the African American community, especially the actors, won't saying anything, and
And a lot of
they
us black men weren't saying anything, and we were just like,
and they're like this. They had everyone has their reasons for not saying anything. Everyone has their opinions why. Everyone comes up with their own thoughts of why they shouldn't say certain things. But like I said, but when you do this, you can't. You have to allow people to speak up for what they want to speak up on. Sorry, that's pretty much the one. That's pretty much the end of that. Is you just have to allow people to speak up what they want. Because like once you can't force someone to have an opinion. Because once you try to force someone to have an opinion, then you're going to force them to have your opinion. Then it's another rabbit hole we're going down.
oh, because actually, when it comes to this issue of abortion and women's reproductive health, uh, it's usually what I've seen is the two sides really are like staunched in, and usually it comes from both sides that if you're on the other side, if you have a differing opinion than what we have, you're an evil person. Like I've seen a lot of times where people are just like, oh, if you are pro-life, that automatically means that you hate women and you want to control women and you want to take away the rights of women. It's just like, nah, not necessarily. But then I've also seen it on the other side where it's like, if you believe that, if you're pro-life, but you talk to pro-choice people, you find out that they're pro-choice, and you're just like, oh, you're a baby killer, and it's like, not necessarily. It's not as black and white as people want to make it seem. There
Nothing's
is a middle ground somewhere.
as ironic as going to say. There's nothing's ever black and white.
Nothing.
And they've been like just because we grew up on these cartoons and these superhero things that a villain's a villain just to be evil. That's not true.
Right.
There's no such thing as there are some black and white cases, yes, but not most things are not black and white. They're mostly rainbow technically. There's always
Rainbows is just reflections of light and through water,
exactly, but as you reflect, literally as you let people reflect on certain issues and stuff, you're always going to find a different color and a different way to look at it.
Exactly.
There's no one's ever going to see it black and white. Most people are not going to see it black and white. Like
Right.
no one's going to look at it and be like, "Oh, he's pro-life." That means that means he hates women. He wants to control women. And some people just because someone's pro-choice doesn't mean they just want to kill babies.
Right.
I was about to say something stupid.
No, say it. It's our
No,
show.
no, no, no. It's okay. No, move
Say
along. Move along. Move along. Move along, please.
it.
Move along, please. Please
Come
move
on, bro.
along. No, no. I'm very serious. Move along. Because like I'm tired, and now as a personal note, like tired Tay says some outrageous things. So
way
let's
more
move
way more than you already.
way more than anything. I try to keep tired Tay away from certain things because like his mouth, when his mouth gets to firing, it's all about what's funny to him, and some things aren't really funny. Once you look back at it, and they're like, "Oh, I said that. Oh no, keep pushing, please."
I get canceled for over your nonsense.
I won't get canceled because I haven't slept in 2 days, and I guarantee that may happen.
I listen. I understand. I feel you. I just hope that that what I want to understand, what I want people to understand, especially men, is that just because the constitutional right to abortion has been taken away doesn't necessarily mean that we can just go off and start doing the nonsense now. We still have to be sexually whatchamacallit. Like we still have to practice sound sexual decisions. You know what I mean?
I mean, like I said, vasectomies rates have gone extremely up now since this.
I still find that hard to believe.
And it's reported in New York Times technically. Hold on, let me see. I'll put it up. Let me look this up.
They're very listen, there are so many means of birth control and proper sex education that we just don't utilize them all because this country does a piss poor job at caring for its citizens, especially when it comes to healthcare and like insurance and you know what I mean. You know how many women had probably just lost
like a great deal of health insurance because you know because reproductive rights goes beyond abortions. You know what I mean? It goes beyond just the right to an abortion. Like a lot of women use like just like organizations like Planned Parenthood. They don't use it just for abortions. They use it to get like cancer screenings and you know medicine that they can't get from their PCPs because it's their insurance doesn't cover it. And it's an unfortunate thing because it's like if you're gonna force these women to be mothers, then you should at least do your part in ensuring that they have the resources to take care of their children, which this country again does a piss poor job of doing.
It's a lot of things. Honestly, we're at the for to finish that off. We're at the point where like we come up. There's an it when it comes to this thing. It comes. I'm repeating myself. I just realized that's hard.
Yeah, that's how tired we are. It's
Hold
okay.
on. So when it comes to our government parties, the parties that are in major power, it's never about to benefit one or the other. It's normally about if this group likes it, then I don't like it. Because there's like whenever we bring up certain issues, they're like, oh, like families they don't have enough resources, and this. So they're like, okay, like they don't have enough resources. We should make it easier, or we should increase like the standards for people to get food stamps to help families move along. And they're like, oh, since that party said it, I don't like it no more, so I'm gonna vote against it. That's kind of how it works. That's kind of how things are run here.
Exactly. How many gun bills have reached like maybe the House?
To get
And
passed,
right,
and then when they get to the Senate, they just freeze. Most
right,
of them
and they
to the
kill it.
point where like there was a poll from NRA, and I kid you not, they didn't want it released. It was really funny. There was a poll from NRA that they were like, do you guys support like a gun law, like a red flag law? And the gun owners voted 85% to approve it. Like there should be red flags and background check laws.
You know what those things are called? Like when they purposely frustrate the process of you know what I mean? Of
It goes against what they're saying. So
no no
now they
no
gotta kind of.
that they purposely frustrate or slow the process of getting a bill passed
Oh,
just for the sake it's called a filibuster.
yeah, I was gonna say it's a filibuster.
That's what they do.
It's
They do
it's a, it's
filibusters.
it's technically two terms of that because a real filibuster is people just talk. You can get a bunch of people to talk at once,
Yeah.
and they keep talking until like people don't want to vote on it no more.
Right.
There was a filibuster. One senator, I forgot what one happened, but one senator talked for 15 days straight from like when they opened until when they closed for 15 days. He just kept talking and talking.
That's insane.
I forgot. I don't remember what time, but I do remember that happening. But we should end it now.
Yesterday. Oh, the crazy thing is we didn't even go really into everything that we could have. But
Okay, part two is our thing. We always have a part two.
you know what we can do part 2. We can definitely do a part 2.
Because
So yes, we definitely want y'all to get in on this and talk to us please because this is an issue that is not going anywhere. It's
yeah,
not going anywhere
anytime
and
soon.
anytime soon. Maybe it's not in like we said earlier, it's not going to get solved within our lifetime.
Probably not.
So, you know,
So
reach out to us, give us y'all opinions, join in on the
to end it all,
conversation. Yeah, no
we are in. To anyone who is going to have to like go through the way to get an abortion illegally, our hearts are to you to go through this dangerous process. But we don't understand it, but we can always be there to support your pain and anything. Just support what you support, fight the fight, never give up on any protest that you fully believe in. And if you want to give us a comment or your opinion, please follow us on our Instagram at excuse_me_brother, not with an A, not ER on Instagram, or email us at excusemebrotherpodcast@gmail.com. I'm Brother Tay. I'm very sleepy.
I'm Brother Jay. I'm very sleepy also.
It's too fucking hot in this goddamn state. I'm done with this world.
Bring back the fall weather.
Like the fall weather. Go back to when global warming wasn't really a threat. Fuck this.
Well, we got to go back a few thousand years for that, sir.
I'm fine with that. No, not really. No,
Yeah.
I lied. I'm not fine with that. No. Wait a minute. Hold on. A few thousand? Wait a minute. We could change some things.
Listen, it's never been a good time in the world or history to be a nigga. So
No, hold on. No, there was a good time when people were going to Africa to get taught. Instead of teaching, we can go back in time. Instead of teaching them,
there were wars in Africa going on.
Let's end it. Let's end it. I was about to say something.
Good night, y'all.
End it.
Perfect.